Hi, I want to introduce myself. My name's Chris Gates. I'm starting a new YouTube channel at 61 years old. Just to tell you a little bit about myself and why you might be interested in my channel, which is all going to be stories and some humor and some nostalgia and maybe some inspirational stories, I hope. I moved 43 times in my life. So I was a new kid at school a lot. I had to make friends fast. I may not be given school that long. So I learned to tell stories to make friends with these new kids in different towns. Um, and I did that from first grade on. By the time I got in sixth grade, I really began embracing my literature classes and the reading assignments I had. I was the nerd that actually read the whole book instead of the cliff notes. Writing assignments I loved. So I really fell in love with writing probably by sixth or seventh grade. I had a seventh grade teacher who was instrumental in that. Um, and then along the way, moving to all these different towns exposed me to a lot of different types of people and a lot of characters who later became characters in my books and stories. But also, I did a ton of odd jobs. I had to work even when I was a young kid to help my family. Um, and then I worked odd jobs all the way through high school and worked my way through college. So all those different job experiences and a lot of manual labor jobs uh, taught me a lot, introduced me to a lot of people. Um, I've had a ton of funny things happen to me in my life. Probably got hundreds of funny stories. I've had some harrowing stories. I've had some brushes with near death. I'm not in the military. I've never been in the military, but I've been shot at and survived three times. I've refueled a nuclear reactor. I worked as a working cowboy for 3 years. Um, ended up with all my writing. I published my first short story in 2000. I had written a lot of stories for school and college and also for friends, but I'd never tried to publish anything until '99. When my grandfather died, I wrote a story about him that got published to the first magazine I submitted it to, and then I had the writing bug. Since then, I've written my way to about 200 published stories, five published books, one writer's award, and ultimately to a gubernatorial speechwriter's job. I worked in power plants for 30 years. Like I said, helped refuel a nuclear reactor when I was 23. I worked in coal-fired plants, natural gas-fired plants, did all that for 30 years, but I was still writing that whole time. But I ended up writing my way to an appointment by the governor of Kentucky, Matt Bevin, as a speechwriter, communications advisor, but also served as his energy advisor. After he served his term in office, I was hired by the Trump administration. I was appointed as a senior energy advisor to the Trump administration. I got to help write one speech for President Trump. I got to write a Trump tweet. So I've had a really fascinating life. In 2020, I contracted the deadliest form of leukemia in the world. I was told that the doctors could not explain medically why I was alive. By the time to get diagnosed, I passed out. I didn't know that I was sick. I passed out in Washington, D.C. one day when I was working in the Trump administration and went to the hospital to find out why I had passed out. And they tested my blood and they said, "We cannot explain medically how you're alive right now. You have almost no red blood cells left. You have a 2% chance of surviving this." I survived it 5 years later. I'm fully cured. I hope I can tell you some stories about that'll encourage you. There won't be any woe is me here. It'll just be, look what I was able to overcome. God's helped me a lot, and I hope you like my channel.